The entire season, the entire Week 18 NFL schedule leads to one thing.
Let's get it.
It is a game for the number 1 seed in the NFC between the Minnesota Vikings and Sam Darnold and Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions, who are at home, favored by 2.5. The over-under is 56.5. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, Melissa Stark on Sunday Night Football. This is why we do this, Shook.
This is actually the first matchup in NFL history between two teams with 14 wins. 28 combined wins, highest ever. Previous high, 25. So you want to talk about importance. It's not just for the division title or the NFC's top seed. It's also arguably, at least statistically, the most important regular season game in NFL history.
Well, I mean, look, I love this is so tough to call, but I like Detroit because it's at home. I think the atmosphere is going to be insane because we know what Detroit has been through organizationally. But knowing that the playoffs could come through the Motor City, I think means a lot. I like the way Dan Campbell went into that game against San Francisco saying, understand what we're about now. You talk about the standard being the standard. This is the standard.
Yep.
And, they had a tight game with the Vikings earlier in the season. Minnesota, the way it's playing now is frightening with Jordan Addison emerging the way he is, Hockenson being a much more integral part of the offense. The 2.5 seems good because I think this is going to be a great game, and the way that the Vikings generate takeaways. We cannot underestimate that, whether it be the strip sack, fumbles forced off of the run pressures that they generate, and the interceptions. I think that's going to be the factor. If the Vikings generate a takeaway or two, they win. If the Lions are able to protect the ball, which they've done a good job of. And by the way, can we talk about how amazing Jahmyr Gibbs looks now that he's the bell cow?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Right.
I got a little nervous in that game, though. There was one run to the sideline where I was like, oh, go down healthy, please.
I think he's huge for them in this game. That I do think there is a way that their great players just have to be greater than the Vikings' great players. Like they need Gibbs to be special in a way that Aaron Jones is great, but is not as special as Jahmyr Gibbs.
Right.
And they need their offense, who is averaging, I just did some scratch math here, 37.5 points per game the last month. So I was like, how do you get an over-under of 56? We have one team that's averaging 38 points a game. So as their defense has collapsed, they've needed to keep scoring, and they've done it against decent defenses like the Packers and the Bills and the 49ers, Bears. Like those are, it's not like they're sieves, and they just need that greatness to be better. I'm almost surprised they're favored because to me they feel like the underdogs now.
Home field.
I guess so. They feel like the underdogs. Like the Vikings have clearly been better, I think, late in the season than the Lions, and yet there is something intangible here that I just believe in with the Lions that's like more than football. It's this journey that they've been on, and it's them overcoming a lot in different scenarios, and it's just like I feel like I'm on Dan Campbell's team, and I have to believe in them because of that. Although the Vikings have all of that too, except maybe better players overall.
It's
crazy.
Just, in terms of watching what the issue has been, and I know Sam Darnold has come through. That's why I picked them last week to beat the Green Bay Packers. But they were still late in the game watching Sam Darnold sail some throws. He threw the interception that ultimately led to the Packers having a chance. That was their first touchdown of the game. Where the problem for Jared Goff has really been the defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Over on the other, that's been it. Goff has been so lights out that despite how good Sam Darnold is playing, he's not playing Jared Goff football right
is
now.
anybody, though?
And that's
Joey Burrow. Joey Burrow's
Joe Burrow, Lamar, Allen, yes, but that's the company he's keeping. When people have been saying Darnold should get MVP votes, I'm like, no, it should be Jared Goff.
Yeah, he's been in the top 5 of my QB index all year.
And so, like, you're missing high against the Green Bay Packers, and I know Xavier McKinney has been solid, and we'll talk about the Pro Bowl and the snubs. Kirby Joseph's leading the NFL in interceptions.
Dude's a stud.
Right now.
Crazy,
he got 2.
So good.
And I know Dan Campbell's like, we're going to try, we're going to play, we're playing all our starters. When Kirby Joseph got that pick and he's running it back, I'm like, slide. like of all the issues that they've had injury-wise on defense, he and Brian Branch have been special, and I don't think Darnold can afford to make just one mistake because all they need is one stop.
And here's a little inside story. When I was at Lions training camp this year, they're talking about, man, Jameson Williams has really matured. You're going to see this guy over the course of the season blossom. Who has really blown up for Jameson Williams? The reason why they say he's matured was Teddy Bridgewater's presence on their roster last year. Well, guess who's back on their roster now? the past few weeks. He's going to be there for as long as they're in post.
And who just had his best game of the season?
State champion.
Jamison Williams.
I mean, I'm telling you, they say something about the way that Teddy can connect to this young man who's gone through an awful lot in the early parts of his career. That's something to keep an eye on because he's really starting to feel a little bit better. So there's a little inside intel.
I like that. And you know what? I think it just bolsters their strength already. In this game specifically, and I think we saw a little bit of when they played San Francisco last week, they got the turnovers they needed, which you just talked about. But what if they don't?
What if they don't?
If they don't, we're looking at a shootout because they have to put up these points just to win these games because they know they can't lean on that defense.
Yeah, they just stick with that scheme. Like, you don't know what Brian Flores is going to do in this game, and that's a big-time advantage. In the first matchup, Jonathan Grenard got after Taylor
He
Decker.
got after him.
He actually dominated that matchup. Van Ginkel and Grenard both made the Pro Bowl team, which is pretty cool. Great job by Kwesi this offseason.
How about that?
That's amazing. They could have Alex Anzalone back on Detroit's side. Adam Schefter reported it was a realistic chance that he will be back. And I think that's really
That's big for
important because I
communication.
think for all the problems they've had, on the defensive line, they've gotten a lot of those guys back where teams like the 49ers are picking on them. It's the middle of the field. Darnold's great there. The Vikings have so much talent there. They actually were very good the first matchup there. So Anzalone would give them a big upgrade from the types of guys that they've had out there.
And the communication, because the Lions, because of all their injuries, played just a ton of zone.
Oh, yeah.
Just a ton of zone. I mean, so teams just pick them apart. The communication Anzalone could give them would be huge.
You really just gonna keep blitzing him like crazy. Darnold's
I don't think so.
so good at holding the ball forever. There was a stat from Next Gen that him and Herbert hold the ball the longest for guys who don't scramble. Like they hold the ball and they throw it, and they're extremely efficient, which is a tough way to live. It means you're inviting getting hit a lot, and those two guys have been hit quite a bit.
To his credit, though, when he's under pressure, when the rush
Right,
comes
it's
in,
been great.
He's very sharp.
And he's allowing those very, very good receivers to get deeper
Yeah,
down
right.
the field and be covered for longer.
Wait, so we're all leaning Lions? This doesn't feel. Haven't we learned anything?
No, I'm kind of leaning Vikings.
Okay.
I'm
Glad-
like the Lions because of the home. I think the home
I love
field
that.
advantage
Yeah.
is huge here.
I think that the emotional part that you described was last year's Lions, and I think it's more about we got to get home field advantage to ensure that we don't find ourselves in the situation we were in Santa Clara last year.
But they're undefeated on the road. That's the one thing I love about the Lions. If they have to go to Philly, they can play outdoors in bad
Yeah.
weather.
Right.
They can mash if they
Whoever loses this game, the story, I can easily imagine in 3 weeks' time before the NFC Championship, the narratives going into that game, like they lost that Week 18 game, but they knew their season wasn't over, and they went on the road and won 2 games. And credit to both these teams. You can imagine either one of them doing it and getting back to either a rematch or the NFC Championship.
Very, very within the realm of possibilities for 14-2 teams.
Right.
Historic.
That's it, guys. We did it. 4 across.
Nick Shook in the house.
Nick.
Did it.
T-shirt
It was
and all.
great.
Well done.
Shout out to Ryan Day for making this possible.
There it is.
Thank you.
I'm happy that you were able to spend the holidays with your large family.
Yes.
A lot of siblings,
Lot of
and that you were able to go back to Cleveland. But we do miss you here. And
Yeah, you know, I miss it
remember
here
when you
too.
were in the newsroom with us every day. It was fun.
Yeah, but we moved here right when I moved to Cleveland. I don't even get to hang out in these nice digs, but it's
Yeah.
always great to walk in and see familiar faces just like you guys.
Well, I'll see you soon on your little box.
Yep, I'll be back in the box. Everybody get used to my oversized head.
Let's get out of here. Appreciate you guys. We will be back on Friday. Cynthia and I making our weekly picks. We'll keep that going through the regular season. And then, yes, we got QB Island returning. We got the recap. Yeah,
Can't wait to see what you have in store for us, Craig.
when we got 16 regular season games left, football is finally back.